Hey everyone, welcome to the show. As always, I'm Nick Jaworski, owner of Circle Social Inc. And James, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, James Hadlock here, just outside of Park City, Utah. We are getting a blizzard today. I'm not kidding you. And so if you love the snow, come visit us. And I'm with Blue Novus Consulting. We're a human development company that focuses on helping admissions teams improve their close rates and admissions.
So we're in Indianapolis, and we had sub 40 below temperatures on Tuesday, and then last Tuesday, and then Wednesday it was almost 60 degrees.
Wow. Well, you know, it's been interesting. It's not the snow that ever really gets us as much as it is when the wind comes with it. And then it's a lot of peril, man. It's travel at your own risk. And, yeah, we're definitely getting a lot of that today.
Cool. All right. So Kathy Frossard is unavailable this week, and Jacob Lynch is, unfortunately, he just had surgery yesterday, and so he is recovering. So we are going to be talking about lean operations next episode, next show. So just a little bit of a teaser there. Hope you guys tune in for that one. But since it's just me and James, and since we are really the marketing duo, James does a lot of the training. We do some training. Obviously, we do a ton of inquiry generation and admit generation through Circle Social for our clients. So we're going to jump into the marketing / training piece of things. And James and I were talking before we kind of jumped on here, but I made the comment that what we see a lot of the time is often a leaky bucket or a bucket with a hole in it. So we will drive a lot of inquiries, and it's almost like just moving the water through the bucket faster into the hole, because so many of those inquiries are being handled inappropriately or being missed and just not being converted because of poor sales skills and because of poor people on the phone or poor follow-up. A lot of things we'll talk about. So James, you want to start off with what you're seeing? I know you're on the ground a lot too, talking to centers and training their teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that visual of the bucket with a hole in it, that I think there's this belief, and this is what I've gotten not only from centers themselves, but third-party vendors, people who are working with them, whether it's a billing company or a marketing company. And it's this idea that we need more leads. We just need more leads. Give us more, give us more, give us more, give us more. And to your point, if we don't have a better understanding of our clientele, and, you know, Seth Godin, if you're familiar with his work, he's an infamous marketer, right?
Right.
You know, one of the things that he talks about from a marketing perspective is this idea of empathy, and not from this softy, touchy feely type of place, but from a place of deeply understanding your clients and what their needs are, not from your perspective, but from theirs. You know, novel idea, right?
Right.
But we tend to forget. I mean, I think a lot of times the approach that people take, and that I've seen a lot firsthand, is, well, if I just tell them my story and I tell them that I've been there before, they're going to just say yes, and we're going to get them into our center. And the more that I have been able to talk to a lot of people around the country, and whether it's been at a conference or just getting to know other third-party providers, training seems to be lacking. It's not something that is valued. And so I'd really like to talk with you about your perspective and really kind of expound on that, and just see what you see in the industry, and why is it that there isn't more training? Why is it, you know, because I work a lot in the HR space as well, in addressing addiction in the workplace. I'm going to tell you what, that they've got it figured out when it comes to understanding that training has a greater ROI than just hiring somebody and then just moving along. And so I hope we can kind of take a 360 view here and really explore that together. And it'll be something I'm sure valuable to those who are tuning in today.
Yeah, let's dig into this. So couple different pieces. One, I just had John Wolf on the podcast. It's not released yet, but I encourage people to tune into that. We had a really big discussion about the value of looking at things qualitatively versus quantitatively, right? And when I'm talking to center owners and center directors, what I get most of the time is a quantitative analysis, right? They are concerned about the call volume and the numbers. If we just had more calls, it would be better. Well, if you have a 0.5% conversion rate from your multimedia leads, you know, versus a good call team that can have anywhere from a 5 to a 10% conversion rate, I mean, you are just throwing money out the window, right? You're spending all this money on marketing and you're not converting any of it. And so we have to understand that you can't measure everything, and that there's a qualitative value that you will see on the back end in terms of your team training. Just real, I have tons of examples, but example of one, we're training a team right now where their call admissions reps are losing a lot of potential admissions. And so example, we gave a training, when someone comes to you on the phone and you're talking about price, that you just need to state it out there, right? Because you're providing a service, you're providing a value that could save someone's life. And yeah, it costs 20 grand, maybe 30 grand, right? Well, that's okay. So the call rep is hemming and hawing on the phone, right? And he's like, well, you've got a Blue Shield policy and those deductibles are super high, so it's going to cost, he's like, I don't think you can afford it. He's just hemming and hawing this whole time. And so finally the guy says, well, what's the price? And the call rep says, well, it's 10 grand, it's going to be a 10 grand deductible. And the guy on the phone goes, oh, 10 grand? He goes, yeah, I got that. That's not a problem, So he spent all this time hemming and hawing about the price, when for a lot of people, it's not an issue, or really what you should be doing is working with the person on the phone to find the resources. If they really want that treatment and they believe that they have the resources to get it, often they don't know where those are going to come from. You can help them out with that. So I know that's something you can probably jump on a little bit there, but they're just not asking the questions. They're not trained properly to a full follow-up. They're just kind of running through the motions and hanging up right away, which is not working.
Well, so I think one of the things, and again, this is guess, I don't have any real hard data around this, but I think there's this assumption too, especially with some of the smaller facilities that, are a one owner or a small group of owners, and their assumption is, there are millions of people out there that need treatment. So we just got to open our doors and they're going to just come running in, right?
Yeah.
And so they pin it onto the digital marketing company and they say, well, why aren't you sending us, we need more leads? Because they look at that bottom line and they go, well, my gosh, if we're getting 500 leads, we should be getting 3,000 leads. Instead of looking at it from this other perspective of, what if you could do more with what you're getting? And to speak directly to that scenario and that situation, people sense, you don't have to say anything. They will sense your confidence or your insecurity.
Absolutely.
And they may not even pick up on it either.
Yeah.
But when that starts to happen, you can ask, why can certain speakers, get an $80,000 speaking fee for every event that they go to?
Right.
And yes, that's been built up over time, but they have that confidence that they know that they're worth that. And so number one, I think it's having the confidence that what you are providing them is a value, not a cost. Mm-hmm. Like, what is the worth of a life? What is the worth of your program? And if you don't believe that your program is worth that, that's a huge issue. Number two, I think that people tend to want to justify and rather than doing that, if you can just be present in that moment and really own that, you don't even have to justify it. You just, this is what it is. And it's no different than saying, my name is James and I live just outside of Park City, Utah. That's just a matter of fact. Yeah. Hey, listen, our cost is $20,000 a month, and this is what it gets you.
Yeah.
And so I think we put so much energy around trying to dance around it, or we don't have enough confidence. And so, certainly some of that is pure sales skill. Another piece of that is just, if you care enough about the other person, you will have the confidence to ask for that pretty easily. At least that's my experience.
Yeah. So, a couple interesting points. Way back in the day, way back in college, I actually did some telemarketing for police organizations and firefighters and things like that, right? And all you did was cold call people, right? You just cold called. They didn't know who you were, what was going on, where you're calling from. And you just said, hey, we're looking for $50 for the Fraternal Order of Police, right? Well, all the time, I learned it with myself and I saw it with other people. It was all confidence. I mean, once you got a couple donations, you would just get 3, 4, 5 right in a row. Just boom, just nail them out. You're like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything different. You're like, it's the same script. I'm talking to the same people. It's the same list I'm calling with. but you would close or you would get those donations at a much higher percentage just because you had that confidence there, right? Another interesting thing I've seen is with like TV for some reason. So I think TV provides legitimacy for employees. They're just like, oh, wow, I'm working for a real company. We're doing TV ads, right? And so when I've seen companies run TV ads, they have actually closed at a higher percentage just because their staff is more confident about the program. Real interesting benefit there.
Oh, that is interesting. That's fascinating to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's all about that level there. But, you know, when we're looking at what programs are doing, the thing that I should have said in the beginning is so many owners and directors are saying that I need more volume and I can't pay for training until we have more revenue and more volume. You have to flip that equation. You have to think the opposite. If you're only getting 100 calls a month and only 10 of those are potential VOBs, those 10 VOBs are gold, right? If you're losing one of those, right, that's 10% of your potential revenue for the month that's gone because you lost a call. And I can tell you from listening to the calls that a lot of admissions call reps are losing calls left and right because they don't have the training. It's so perfunctory. And so what I hear on the phone a lot of the time, and we talked about this on our podcast, James, there wasn't this building of empathy or rapport. It was all about what's the center need. It's like, well, can you tell me how old you are? Where are you? What insurance do you have? Oh, okay. You're in Ohio. Okay, that's kind of far from us. Like they're just taking notes. They're not saying, oh, you know, you're in Ohio. Can you tell me what's going on there? All right. Well, we're here in Florida, or we're here in California, or we're here in Washington. How can we get you here? Because I want to be able to help you, right? They're not building that rapport and having that conversation, looking for solutions together with the caller. They're just taking notes. And so I know you can speak to that.
Yeah, so I would call that transactional. That's a transactional sale. That's not relationship based. And I would argue that transactional is an outdated model in any industry, but in this industry in particular, people will feel different when they can feel that you care, and they will feel different when you and even if you don't want to, again, go into that touchy-feely mode of empathy, go into the Seth Godin mode of empathy, and that is try to really understand their situation, because you will become the ultimate problem solver. And think about it in your own life, Nick. Like when someone has become a problem solver for you, how have you responded to that?
Right. Yeah.
Positive.
Very
right?
positive.
And so coming from that place of really trying to figure out, like going deep as you possibly can to understand what their situation is, it makes you unstoppable. You're able to do so much more. People will build trust with you immediately. You know, I don't know if I mentioned, but Amy Cuddy, who is a famous neuroscientist, she did a TED Talk around presence. And one of the things that she talks about in some of her leadership stuff is, you know, one of the first things that people ask themselves when they're interacting with you, and check this against your own experience, is, can I trust you?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Can I trust you? Now, no one's thinking about that, but that is absolutely what we tend to do. Is we're assessing someone on, can I trust this person? And if you're transactional, you know, that I don't know if it's 50-50 or 30-70, but I can tell you that it's definitely going to improve when you come from a place of, I'm interested in you, I care about you, I genuinely am here to help. That approach is far and away a much more effective. And you know, you and I have had that conversation, but we've just become transactional, and whether it's a call center or someone out on the street that's hitting the streets as an outreach business development person, the more that you can be a problem solver it changes the conversation. It changes the feel of the conversation.
Yep. Right. You know, I could give tons of these examples, but like you're saying, that problem solver piece. So we had another example where we're listening to a client or a call rep on the phone and came up with a Medicaid, right, as a lot of the calls do. And usually what they were doing was hanging up. So we did some training with them, right, the week before, and we said, you got to dig deep. You got to problem solve with people, see what's going on, right? So it turns out that the mom was on Medicaid, but they were calling for their child, right? And their child had Anthem, had a great Anthem policy under the father, you know? So normally they would have just
Mm-hmm.
hung up, but then it's funny because I heard them on the phone pause, like they were thinking about the training we did. And they're like, oh, well, maybe there's other ways. Did you possibly have insurance in the past or a job or anything? We take like Blue Cross or Anthem or Cigna. And the mom's just like, yeah, oh yeah, we've got Anthem under her dad. It's like, so you wonder how many calls have been lost, right? How many Medicaid calls did you hang up the phone on or give them the Samsung number for and then move on, where it's very possible that they actually had a policy that they didn't know about, or even getting into things like qualifying events, right? They just got out of jail last month. Well, that's a qualifying event for Obamacare. You can get insurance. Did you have a job that you just got fired from? Well, you can still get COBRA, right? It's not cheap, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than paying cash for the entire program. So, these creative solutions that you problem solve with people is just something that most centers are not doing. And there needs to be outside training from my perspective, because I don't see that sense of knowledge within the field itself. It's not that people don't want to do better, right? They think that the team has a good heart, and they often always do, but they don't even realize what's missing, right? They don't even realize what they could be doing if there was proper training in place. And call training is just part of it. So I don't know if you want to say anything else about the call training, but if not, I would like to jump into a little bit about the business development side of things too, and the lack of training there.
Yeah, I do. So a couple of things. So about 2 years ago, I decided with my wife. So my wife and I we have 9 kids. Did you know that, Nick?
I did not know that. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So we have 9 kids from 26 down to 4. And wow. 4 of those, my wife and I had together. I've been in recovery for 11 years. And you have 4 kids, and I'm going to be the first one to admit, I decided, I'm going to get pregnant with my wife. So we both, our weight fluctuated with every one of those pregnancies up and down. And 2 years ago, we decided to jump into trying keto, which is high fat, moderate protein, almost no carbs, very low carbs, absolutely no sugar. And so let's talk about diet for a minute, and why I think a lot of people don't do training is because we're looking for a quick fix. Right. In fact, it's so funny. I remember, going to the gym like 3 days in a row, like after not working out and I'm going, man, I'm, wanting to see a result right after 3 days. And it just doesn't work that way. Right. With keto, one of the things that we decided to do when we jumped into keto was we weren't going to look at results. We were just going to stick with it for at least 4 months. We weren't going to think anything more of it. And wouldn't you know, oh my gosh, the results were amazing. And it absolutely helped us get back to where we felt more comfortable with our bodies, and where we felt kind of our pre-fight weight, or, our training weights. And so I think a lot of times we want a quick fix, and because it's easy to track phone calls and it's easy to track admissions, a lot of times we don't want to look at that longer trail of success. And I would say this as far as training goes, whatever that training is, it could be leadership training, personal development, specific, call handling, whatever it is. When you pay for something like that, you're not just paying for it for results this 1 month. That training, it's magnified. So if you brought in 8 of your people to be trained, you pay one price, whatever that is. Let's just do a round number and say $5,000. So let's say you paid $5,000 for a training, but what kind of impact will that have over the next year? If you were to increase by 10% of your admissions because of that one training, you've got to times that by 12, not by that 1 month, right? It's sustainable. Whereas if I am pumping a ton of money into AdWords or into some type of initiative online, that's every single month that's going out of my pocket. So yeah. I think that we have to look at it as not just what it does for me in January when I did the training, but what kind of impact will it have in February, March, and so on. So it's, to me, I think we're just not looking at the math the right way right now. And that comes with education. So it's got to come. It's going to come because people are going to get sick and tired of just spending more money and it going through the bucket, right? Yeah. So eventually, I think as an industry, we'll wake up to it like a lot of the corporate world has in other industries.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even for my own company, like I invest a lot in the training for the team. They have 2 hours minimum set aside per week where it's just training time for them, whatever they need to work on, or we sit down as a team, or they work together with each other on different things that, one has an expertise in AdWords, the other one's doing Facebook, and they share that, right? But that's what keeps us afloat, and that's what keeps us constantly being better than everyone else out there. Because especially like digital marketing, God, it changes constantly. Every freaking day, Facebook's interface is different, drives me up a wall. But we have to stay on top of things, and demographics change, the way that the marketing works change. So if we don't allow that training time, we're going to fall behind, and we're not serving ourselves, we're not serving our clients, and then we're not serving the patients that our clients could be helping, right? So I think it's a big deal. But what's really important, I think, when you're thinking about the training aspect of things, is how important your people are, right? So what I've seen in the field is that there's a super high turnover, right? Call reps turnover fast. They kick out BD reps in 3 to 6 months, sometimes less if they're not performing. So the field often sees this really high turnover because they're kicking people out all the time. So they're like, well, why should we invest? Because they're not going to be here in 3 months, which is the absolute wrong way to look at it, So you've built a $20 million a year company, right? You want to talk a little bit about the value of training and how it's more important to keep people if they're good than it is to, just look at bottom line results all the time?
Well, there's, again, I think we live in this world where we need to see results right now. And if we don't see results, we either let them go or they take off. And I can think of handfuls of marketers or business development professionals in our field that literally just bounce from one center to the next. And let me throw some staggering numbers out at you. So in the corporate world in general, so SHRM, if you don't know what SHRM is, it's the Society of HR Management. And SHRM has a lot of data around training and what that does for an organization. But they also have numbers on what it costs you as a facility to hire and fire and then have to retrain someone. So how's this for a number? 300% of their annual salary is what it is now costing any company in America to rehire somebody, train them, and get them back on the road. So when you think about it, if you're paying a marketer a 6-figure or a high 5-figure income, just do the math. And so to put a little time into training, it does a couple of things. It creates a bond, because all of a sudden, so if I'm that marketer and all of a sudden you are the owner of the company or a leader in that company, and what you're saying is, you care about me so much, you want to invest in my success. Right. Rather than what is it typically? Hey, you need to start producing in the next 4 months or you're gone. What does that feel like? Right. And so you guess what you have is you have musical chairs. And not only is it costing you that 4 months of just spinning out, but now it's costing you to go find someone else. I mean, think of the amount of time it takes to go through resume after resume, vet them out, cross your fingers, you hope that they're going to do well. And so what we tend to do is we try to go after, which is where a lot of these bloated salaries are coming into play. We tend to go after someone who's got a book of business already, and then we try to sway them from another organization. But then, that just creates so much disparity. And so I think it's time for a huge awakening in how we do business. And I think it starts with investing in our people. There is so much data to support training, investing, leadership, and creating a culture where they don't want to go. See, people don't leave your company because of salaries. Money is like number 3 or 4 on the list. They leave because they don't feel appreciated. They leave because they're not, they're not getting the results that they want. And training solves all of that in one swoop.
Yeah. And it's the ancillary costs as well. I mean, if you're flipping BD reps every 3-4 months, right? You lose the trust of your potential referral sources, right? I mean, so there's tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost potential business because they don't trust you because they see the BD reps flipping all the time. Same thing with your internal team, right? If I see the BD reps turning in and out, I think, well, man, I'm going to be next year, or this company is not doing very well, or they don't support their people. So now I'm looking at leaving, right? And that just creates a whole culture of turnover, which is just a killer to your business. There has to be a stronger focus on the value of team and good team over the bottom line. And when you look, and when I talk to our clients and I talk to leaders in this industry that have built really large, successful treatment centers, it always comes down to people. Always. They've built a good culture, and that's hard to quantify, but you don't need to, right? You have that qualitative aspect. And if you're a good leader, and I think if you're good at business, you'll see that growth is there, it's coming. Why is our bottom line improving over time? It's because we have good people, and I can't measure that specifically, but we're doing a hell of a lot better this year than we were doing last year.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for me.
Yeah. And here's an advantage I think we have in this industry that maybe you don't necessarily have and this is a general statement, but how many people, Nick, have you met in the industry that truly, sincerely care about people and want to help?
Oh, tons of them.
Right?
Tons of them.
And so to me, I think there's actually an advantage to have more culture, more commitment, more purpose, more just cohesiveness, because there is this sense, because, I don't know what the numbers are. It'd be interesting to know how many people that work in the addiction recovery field are in recovery themselves. So, my wife and I are a 1-2 punch. I'm in recovery. She's not. Is it 50-50? Is it, but people tend to have a lot more compassion when they're in recovery and decide to move into this industry. In fact, I would venture to say that anybody who's in recovery that started in this industry, it was because they wanted to reach and help somebody else.
Right.
So tremendous advantage that we tend to ignore. And, one of the things that we haven't talked about yet that I want to talk about, because I see it all the time, is how much stress people in admissions and marketing, and especially those in the outreach and business development side of things, tons and tons and tons of stress.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone's under the gun all the time, right? And their KPIs are so strong. It's not like the clinician where they're like, well, we hope you do a good job and help people. The marketers are on top of every single day, right? What are your numbers? What's going on? Here are the numbers from last week. We want to improve, so it's just this completely stressful game. And to your point, you lose sight of why you're doing it. And it becomes about the numbers, not about your compassion for people. And then suddenly they're losing joy in what they're doing rather than gaining it.
Yeah. And I've heard it. I was on with a friend of mine in New Jersey a couple of months ago, and she was talking. So she's been in the admissions and marketing and business development side. She's, I think, working with a nonprofit today, but she talked to me about when she goes to some of these networking events and talks to all these young, very, very, very capable business development people, and they're stressed and they're freaking out, and they're just like, I don't know what to do. And they don't seem to have the kind of outlet to be able to really talk about this. And, I've often wondered, how many people are we losing because the message is you got to perform. And I get it. Like we need to be sustainable. We've got to provide, but what are we doing on the administrative side and on the leadership side to be able to support them to be successful?
Mm-hmm. Right. It all comes down to support, right? How are you supporting your team? I always used to say the example of a bad leader, because I used to work in corporate, right? You did too at some point. The example of a bad leader is someone that's constantly saying, well, where are the numbers? Where are the results? Rather than, what can I do to help improve these results? Where is my gaps, or where is the gaps in our systems or the way that we're operating that people are not consistently achieving the results that we want them to achieve, right? And that's what you see pretty consistently. Like if there's one outlier, well, it's probably that outlier, right? But usually what I see most of the time is that there's entire teams underperforming, and that almost always comes down to leadership, right? The leadership is not being supportive. They're not finding out what the gaps are. They're not helping their teams grow. They're just kind of throwing out the KPIs and said, you guys hit them. And if you don't, you're gone.
Yeah. No, it's true. And so it's this vicious cycle. And I'm really interested in some of the data. I'm sure it will come at some point on when we start to see what is it really costing you to not train. And I think we'd be surprised. I think we'd be blown away by, and again, like with every other industry, and I think we're a little behind the general kind of corporate approach to leadership and training. That's my sense. I can't prove it, but that's my sense. But I'm telling you, it will increase engagement. It'll increase loyalty, which is huge. It'll increase performance. Ultimately, it will increase performance. You'll start to settle in. That doesn't mean that you're going to have to, at times you're going to let somebody go. That's okay. Yeah. But if you've done everything on your side to train and support and remind them that, hey, you matter as an individual, number one. Number two, let me show you how to be more successful at this. And then I think you would see a major turnaround in turnover, in performance. I think it's something we're ignoring as an industry as a whole. I know that there's some people out there that are doing a great job, but there's more that are not.
Yeah, I completely agree. There is a lot of opportunity, and that's it. There's tons of opportunity to improve your program, right? There's tons of opportunity to improve your business fundamentals that are going to help you grow your center and help more people. And it's being lost for a very minimal fee, right? Like you said, I mean, honestly, most trainings are starting around like $5,000, right? For a couple of days of training. And that's a single enrollment. If you got a single enrollment off of that training, it more than pay for itself. And I mean, I can tell you the training that we just did with one of our clients, they got 2 enrollments the next week that they wouldn't have gotten because of it, right? I mean, in a week. So it's just like, come on, the value is clearly there and the risk is so small, it's just no reason not to take it. So I want to jump into the business development stuff as we I don't want to run out of time here. So with business development, what I see constantly, and we've talked about this before, is it's just focused on other recovery centers. The BD reps do not have the skill set to actually go and do outreach to anyone other than other marketers. It's just marketers, marketing marketers, which cracks me up. I remember, actually that conference that we were at in California, the Addiction Treatment Marketing Conference, remember? Yeah. I had a BD rep walk up to me, brand new. He goes, "Hey man, I'm new. I work at such and such a center." He's like, "If you got any referrals, just here's my card." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Who are you? What's going on?" And then I just had someone. I get like 15 LinkedIn connection requests a day, and I get like 20 messages. Like my LinkedIn inbox is constantly flooded, and I'll get these BD reps. I'm like, "Hey, why do you want to connect? What's going on?" And they'll be like, "Oh, just wanted to let you know we're in network with TRICARE now." I'm like, okay. I said, "Who are you?" Right? I don't know you from Adam, but I'm glad you told me that you're in network with TRICARE now. I mean, these guys don't know what they're doing, right? They don't know how to build a relationship or what's important, right? They think the numbers are important. They think their bed openings are important. Nobody cares how many open beds you have. Everyone has open beds. I don't need another email on open beds. I don't need another email on who you're in network with, right? I want to know what your program's like. I want to know what kind of quality you guys are delivering and how successful your patients are. That's what I want to know. That's why I would refer to you, right? But they're so used to this exchange game rather than the value game of actually connecting with, psychiatrists and therapists and counselors and attorneys and hospitals, et cetera.
Yeah, it reminds me, and I mentioned this so I do a Facebook Live every Friday on my own feed. And we were talking about this not too long ago. And I remember when I was working with T-Mobile. So T-Mobile had just switched over at the time I was working with them from VoiceStream. And I know, Nick, you're probably old enough to remember Jamie Lee Curtis when she was with VoiceStream, right? She was kind of the voice of that. And they were transitioning over to T-Mobile. And I was able to win the contract for rolling out the new T-Mobile brand for kiosks in that big company that I own. And I had this massive insight because I wasn't working with the CEO. I was working with someone in the supply chain that oversaw this one project. And she had a boss, and her boss was, the VP of marketing. And so here was my insight. My insight is that I wasn't there to sell kiosks. Like, that was not ultimately what I was there to do. When I started to understand the big corporate game a little bit, what I immediately gravitated to was this understanding that I was there to make that person in charge of supply chain look really good to her boss. Sure. Now, the way that I did that was by delivering this amazing product and making sure it was on time and all of that. But was I going to get credit for that? No. That person was going to get credit for that. And that was one of my big aha moments when it came to working with people and organizations. Was it had nothing to do with me ever. Had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with making sure that the person I was working with, especially when they were trying to impress and maybe work up their ladder, the more I understood what motivated her, which was she wanted to make sure the product was on time, that it was easy to track, and all of these things. When we understood that, it was easy to fulfill that. And by the way, yes, it was about us building those kiosks, but it was way more about her looking good to her bosses. And so in your example of people reaching out to you, it's obvious it's all about them.
Yeah. Right. No, that's exactly the whole problem. And, I'll respond. I'm pretty blunt, right? I'm just like, I don't care. I said, what is this going to do for me? Right. You need to lead with value. And so many BD reps fail at that, right? So, when we're talking to BD teams or we're talking to owners about what their BD teams need to do, like, guys, you need to have something that you're providing them. If it's just about some donuts, great, okay. But really what I want is training, right? Are you going to go into those hospitals? Are you going to go into these offices, and are you going to provide a CEU? Are you going to provide training around suicide prevention, which is really important? Are you going to provide training about alcohol in the workplace or addiction in the workplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are super valuable things that show your expertise. They show you care. They get you in front of the right people. There's so much value to be added there. And there's just mainly lost opportunities consistently. They're dropping off a brochure, they're saying hi, and then they're out and they're on to their next visit because they've got to do 20 visits this week, and that's their KPI.
Yeah, and it really is a lack of training. And it's, going back to Seth Godin, I can't reinforce this enough because he's, people, you and I know who that is.
Yeah.
I think hopefully a lot of our listeners do too, but really understanding what's going to drive the person that you're working with, like what motivates them, what do they need, what's keeping them up at nights. Right. I mean, here is a great approach to marketing and business development. How can I help you?
Right.
How can I help you? Like, and I'm not talking rhetorically. I'm talking about how can I really help you? Like, what is it that you need that I maybe can deliver to you? And I promise if you can deliver that, you build trust. And as you build trust, people do not send people to your treatment center because of any other reason that they trust you. And that trust may be because, yes, I am in network with Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's great. But it's so much more than that. It really, because, there's going to be 5 or 6 others that they can send to as well. Right. It comes down to 100% that relationship. Even if it feels transactional, I promise you, on some level, they trust you for some reason.
Right. There's something about you, something that you did, something about maybe the brand, the reputation that your center has. It might not be you per se. It might be actually the brand of the center that's built it up. And so we're actually polling centers across the country, both our clients and non-clients, and we polled almost 500 centers already. And the centers or the programs that are very successful right now, almost all of them have really strong BD teams. That is the underlying thing that I'm seeing come out of a lot of the communications that we're having with these people. It's like, okay, well, you're above 80% census. All these other people are like 50% or below. What do you think successful? The number one response we're getting back is we have a great business development team, and we're doing all this strategic outreach into all these different areas, all these different aspects of the community. They have long-term BD reps in place. I will name a center, for example, Banyan. Banyan has an amazing BD team, amazing. The long-term, right? They've been around for a long time. They don't lose their reps very often, and people are very passionate and they care. And so if you can build that, then you're going to have a much longer-term success than people that are flipping in and out, not doing any training, that are relying on purely digital marketing leads or multimedia, things like that. I don't want to downplay it. That's what my company does, right? We help a lot with that, but it's helpful. But the bulk of your admissions are still coming from your community relationships and your relationships with other professional referral sources and your alumni. That is the foundation of your program. Everything else is just kind of gravy and a different throttle to move up or down as the situation requires.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, and that can start from leadership It can start by someone in that team stepping up and becoming that leader, whether they have a leadership position or not. I mean, so if you're out there and you're feeling like maybe leadership isn't doing that, you still have a lot of power, and you can show up as that leader, and then it just opens you up to so many opportunities, whether it's within that organization or if you decide that maybe that's not the right fit for you. But if your organization is not investing in you, ask them to invest in you. Ask them that you need that. I mean, like, use that same approach that I've talked about, because by the way, if you're in business development, the first thing you're marketing is you.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can go to your leadership team and you can say, hey, I need your help. I need your help with some training. I need some help. Take some time with me to really walk through this. And if you're not doing that, then, so it's a two-way street. Just because you may not have that leadership position, ask for that training, ask for that support, because if they don't deliver it to you, then at least you've got some clarity on what your next decision is going to be. But you'd be surprised if you put some value into that, they would too.
Yeah, there's so much value in investing in yourself and asking your employer, your company to help you out. I even think back in the day when I used to teach, right? Like, I got involved in teacher training because I said, well, how can I help my school? I said, can I go and observe other teachers, right? Can I sit in their classrooms? I'm not going to get paid for it. I just want to go and observe other teachers, right? And then I built training plans out for it. And I said, oh, well, I see a bunch of gaps here. I'm like, could I provide a training, right? And again, you don't even have to pay me for it, right? So you provide all this value. And then suddenly I started training internally. And then from there, I got all these conference gigs, right? I mean, there's a lot more to it, but that was part of it, right? So if you ask for, to help out, if you deliver value, as always, right? But yeah, if you just ask, there's often opportunities there that you can take advantage of. And I mean, hell, if my staff comes to me and says, hey, I want to help with this, can I do it? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. It's great. Yeah, I said, please. I don't have enough time in the day, so I'm happy for any help I can get. So I want to wrap things up here, but is there any final thoughts that you wanted to cover that we haven't really gone over?
Believe it or not, I don't think so. I think we did a pretty good job today, Nick. This was a lot of fun, and I don't think either of us got onto our soapbox too much, right?
Right.
So we mission accomplished.
Right. Well, everyone out there, let us know. Shoot us a message in the comments, subscribe, or just private message us on LinkedIn or something like that. Let us know what you thought. But we appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you all in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
All right.